Yo, what is up, guys? We are back at it again with another build video. Today we are going to be covering dual blades for MR1 to MR4. When you get to MR4, you'll be replacing some pieces here and there, but this is pretty much a bare bones rarity 8 only build for dual blades. So once you start into Master Rank, you can start putting this build together and have a formidable dual blades build to battle your foes. Anyway, let's get right into it. With this build, you will end up having 7 crit die, 4 attack boost, 3 crit boost, 2 weakness exploit, 3 marathon runner, which is the bread and butter for this build, 2 recovery up, which I believe is on the talisman or armor pieces, grinder S, we'll talk about that when we get there, and a bunch of other miscellaneous perks that you don't really need or care for. You will need 3 weakness exploit decos, 3 crit boost, and 1 marathon runner deco, so make sure you have those going in. The armor pieces I'm using for this build and weapons, this is the Azeros dual blades. When you get into Master Rank, I recommend making the Kimura and then going straight to this because it has the extra 2 slot, which you can use for something if you want it, and it won't cost you that much anyway. And then after the Azeros one, go back up to the Kimura because it upgrades again. The Azeros dual blades sadly don't upgrade again until rarity 10, so that's a recommend going back up to the Kimura. I also recommend just in general using a raw dual blades build until you get to endgame, at which point I would mess around with elemental, just because it's going to be really costly to make an elemental dual blades for every single like monster with that elemental weakness. And also, you won't have the slots really to slot in all the elemental, so I recommend just going raw or blast. And sadly, you won't really get any good blast dual blades till way later either. So you're probably gonna just have to stick with raw up until you get to endgame. Anyways, the helmet we are using here, this is the Yukimo Sky. I talked about this in a previous build video. It has 2 crit die and 2 slot in evade window. You get this from an early follow request. Like I said in a previous video, do your follow request. They give you a lot of interesting loot and a lot of interesting weapons. So do your follow request. This is one of those armor pieces you can get. Centaur Mail. This is the bread and butter of the build. It has 2 marathon runner, 1 crit eye, and 2 slot. It also has grinder S. So technically, this is the most efficient chest you will be using for dual blades for a while, actually, unless you were to have a talisman with a bunch of marathon runner. You will be using this for a while, and probably even in endgame builds, honestly, because of how optimal this chest piece is. The Centaur, it's available in MR3, it's a blue crab that's slashies at you. Kind of annoying. The harder of the crabs in this expansion that you fight, if you don't remember what the Centaur is. We're also using the Centaur bracers or braces. This is you can replace this with other hands if you want. There aren't that many other options. I just used it just because it completes a set. And also Grinder S. Let's just talk about that now. What Grinder S does is, let's see what it says. When recovering Sharpness, grants a boost to Sharpness properties based on the number of levels recovered. What is a level recovered? So basically your Sharpness levels, green, blue, white, purple. So if you drop from, like, say, white to green, and then you sharpen, you will get a bump. You will get a bump to your sharpness. You'll get a bump to your sharpness level in the form of 10% extra damage. But you have to drop down 2 levels and then sharpen to get that boost, which is not really worth it. You shouldn't be dropping down 2 levels of sharpness. There's probably a handful of dual blades that could benefit from this, but none that are really that practical. I wouldn't bet on, like, just losing sharpness constantly and then sharpening to get a 10% damage buff. There are better ways to get a 10% damage buff in this expansion, trust me. But the braces, they have 2 crit eye and 2 slot. The baggy coil, there's not that many good options for coils. This has 2 attack boosts and the 2 slot. And good greaves, everyone's favorite best in slot greaves. 2 attack, 2 crit eye. And this talisman, this is a different crappy talisman I'm using this time. I just have 2 slots and I put in a 2 weakness exploit. So whatever talisman you have, as long as you have 2 slots. In fact, you're going to have the worst talisman of all time because you have an extra slot here. So as long as you have this 1 slot, you're good to go. So yeah, as far as the 1 slots are concerned, if you were to do an elemental build, you wouldn't have enough. You wouldn't have enough to slot in all the elemental damage you wanted to. So I would probably recommend putting stun resist. I don't think you should put speed sharpen. I don't think you should put speed sharpen on the build because it's kind of pointless on dual blades now because there's so many ways to maintain sharpness for all weapons, including dual blades. And dual blade specifically has this new silk bind move you'll get at MR4 that basically lets you sharpen with a silk bind move. So you can just spam sharpen it or do it in between combos and stuff. It also works as a dodge. It's really good. So you don't need to have C speed sharpen. So I'd probably recommend just using maybe elemental resist, whatever elemental resist you have, in a place of speed sharpen. And also just keep in mind, as you go to rarity 9, you'll be replacing these individual pieces. You'll be replacing these individual pieces with just various things that are slight upgrades that'll probably enable you to get 7 attack, maybe even squeeze in some other comfy. But when you're first starting the game, I would highly recommend this build. This is the build to go. This is you just need a chest piece. The chest piece is the most important part of this build, and just build around it, and you'll be good to go. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this build video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. We're getting close to 4K. I can feel it. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Ramizo5. Until next time, I will see you guys very, very soon. Bye-bye and good night.